First things first, what are the objectives and scope of this first section? We'll begin by reviewing Hotlinked Modules, a simple yet powerful feature, and I will show you how to work on a project in a modular way by linking external files or ArchiCAD projects, and I'll walk you through various useful tools for managing these models. I'll also cover methodologies and strategies for approaching projects in a more systematic manner. Feel free to pause the video and practice the concepts on your own or replay the lessons as many times as you need. This will allow you to learn at your own pace and comfort. Additionally, keep in mind that each lesson includes extra resources such as links, articles, PDF documents, project files, and more content that I'll be adding continuously to help you deepen your learning process. I encourage you to stay alert and review all the material I'll be sharing with you. And with that said, let's get started with this module. Alright, so let's get started with our course with the first topic, which is going to be the use of the Hotlinked modules, the process, the functions, and pretty much everything that revolves around the use of the Hotlinked modules. Okay, for this case, what we're going to be working on is going to be this project over here. Yeah, this looks a little bit big, but I promise it's quite simple, especially if we work everything in the most structured and cleanest way possible. And we're going to do this first off by creating a basic type of room, okay, which is going to be linked inside a typical floor plan. Once we generate the typical floor plan and once we generate the module for this one, we're going to link everything inside a master project until we get the final version of the project. To give you a general panorama of what type of structure we're going to use with the use of the Hotlinked modules function is going to be something like this. We generate the basic rooms, we link everything in a typical floor plan, and the typical floor plan is going to be linked inside a master project. And this is the amazing thing about Hotlinked modules. You can use this to work collaboratively in a project, in ArchiCAD, without necessarily using the teamwork function. We could call this an offline method to work a collaborative project. You work everything in a structured way using Hotlinked modules, okay? But also it gives you the ability of just changing a basic file individually. If you, for example, reference this file 30 times, 100 times inside a project, you only create a simple change on the base file and all the 100 copies will be automatically updated. This is going to work similarly as we could say a block for AutoCAD. If you change the AutoCAD block, if you copy the block 100 times, all the copies are going to be updated. Or for example, a SketchUp component, if you update the component only once, all the 100 copies are going to be completely updated. Besides the possibility of automatically updating hundreds of copies, it gives you the ability of working a project systematically. What we're going to do is, first off, we're going to comment a little bit about the functions revolving around the hotlinks. Place hotlink and the Hotlinked module manager. Also how you can select hotlinks, how you can update them, how you can relink them, and pretty much everything that revolves around this function, okay? And then we're going to focus on the project. If you notice, this brochure actually has 3 different pages, different to our previous courses. You can find pretty much all the information regarding the project in the second page. This is where you can find the typical floor plans, the roof floor plan, the ground floor plan, and pretty much everything that revolves around the project, okay, in general, and the typical floor plan. And right over here, you can find all the information regarding the typical rooms that are going to be linked inside the typical floor plan. For this project, we can use 3 different layouts, one which has a king size bed, one which has 2 individual beds, and another one which has a double and individual type of bed. Okay, but the room is going to be the same. We're going to use this basic layout for the 3 types of rooms. Okay, And finally, but not least, something else that I'm going to be annexing for these sections are going to be all these different PDF files. I'm not going to give you everything in this lesson, but I'm going to constantly be uploading each one of these PDF files along the different lessons that we're going to cover. Also, as a backup, I'm also going to include PLA models that you can open for your project. Just keep in mind that these models are made in ArchiCAD 27 in the Spanish version, but since this is a PLA file, you definitely won't have any issues with libraries, and as long as you use ArchiCAD 27 or a higher version. So having said this, what I'm going to ask you is to make sure that you open up a completely new copy of an ArchiCAD project, and in the next lesson we can start with the first topic. Now, before we start, for this lesson I'm going to be including a bit of documentation and also this small file. I'm going to include this documentation, room dimensions and room distribution if you want to model everything from scratch. In one PDF file you can notice all the measurements expressed in meters right over here. This is a basic distribution, and for the other file you can notice the different layouts that the room is going to have. Okay, I'm also including in this present lesson one of the PLA models. If you want to skip the modeling part, it's going to be this file over here, room number 1, king size. If you open this in ArchiCAD international version, in my case it's going to be ArchiCAD 28, I simply open this, read all the files directly. You can notice that there's not going to be any issue in terms of libraries. All the objects are going to be present. So having mentioned this, let's proceed with the first thing. We already commented that the Hotlinked modules will allow you to, for example, create a link of this file. So you can, for example, copy everything a bunch of times. And if you change the original file, if you, let's say, we move this wall a little bit over here, we change the distribution or something else, well, all the different copies are going to be automatically updated in this external file. Okay, it also gives you the ability of working on a file individually and creating a more structured file containing other files that will allow for some degree of collaborative work. But in first place, how can we link, for example, this ArchiCAD file into another existing file? In first place, we need to save this accordingly. When you're working with a Hotlinked module from the very beginning, let's go over here to File, External Content, and right over here you will notice that we can find the place hotlink function. Let's activate this. Right over here, select module. Okay, it's going to open up this window, select Hotlinked module, where we actually select whether this is going to be from a file or from Beam Cloud. Let's do this from a file. And when you want to place a Hotlinked module, you will notice that ArchiCAD will accept multiple types of files. One of which is going to be the base type of file extension that ArchiCAD manages or uses, which is just an ArchiCAD solo project, PLN. But also you will notice that we can use the point mod type of extension. We can go ahead, link 2D lines, IFC files. You can link Rhino models, and you can link Revit project files. Okay. But the two that we're going to use for this section are going to be PLN and point mod. So this means when creating a linked type of file, what you want to do is save this file, save as right over here, and simply save this in these two different extensions. You got the basic extension and you got the point mod extension. Now keep in mind that there are advantages, pros and cons for each type of file. If you want to, for example, manage everything, let's say if you want to include view sets, sections, elevations, you want to include the 2D information in your project, go ahead and save this as a PLN file. This is going to give you even more advantages when working your project in a structured manner. But let's say you only want to reference the geometric information from an ArchiCAD file. You only want to include the walls, the objects, the windows, the door, and all the beam information, which is merely geometric information or 3D information. For this case, you also have the point mod type of extension, which is going to be a little bit more lightweight than the PLN type of file, and also is going to work a little bit faster. So in long story short, point mod will only contain geometric information, but it's going to be faster, easier to manage, and it's going to be a little bit lightweight, okay? And also, if you want to include all types of information and more type of information, you want to use the PLN type of file extension, which is going to be slower than the mod, but it's going to give you the possibility of managing even more information. So feel free to use whichever file extension you want. We can test this both out. I'm going to create a new folder in the desktop for this practice, which is going to be the Hotlinked Modules folder right over here. Let's proceed to save a quick test in PLN file extension, and let's save the same file in point mod type of extension. Now, I want to point out something important when saving point mod type of files. In first place, you need to be on the ground floor. If you're not in the ground floor when you try to save this, in this case we have the module file from clipboard or the module file right over here. We got two different modes, okay, in the ground floor. But if we switch this to the 3D view file save as, you will notice that we don't get the point mod type of extension. So just be really careful, because if you're in 3D view, it's going to be deactivated. So let's proceed to the ground floor. Select everything that is important when saving your mod file. Control C, okay? And now you can proceed to save this however you want. You can save this as a module file. It's going to save all the geometry present in the project, or module file from clipboard. Only the selected elements you have copied with Ctrl C and have previously selected. Okay, let's proceed with the mod file. I'm going to override the previous save I had from earlier. Let's save this, and pretty much that's it. Now you can clearly notice how the files are going to behave. We got the PLN type of file extension, which you can clearly notice that is going to measure 8 megabytes for this room, okay? But if you save this as a point mod type of extension, you can clearly see it's only going to measure 2 megabytes. It's going to be 4 times lower than the PLN file extension. And it's also going to be faster to use and faster to update. But if you're planning to use more information, go ahead and use the PLN type of file extension. So hopefully with this I can make it clear which are the main differences between these two extensions when using Hotlinked Modules. So for the next lesson, make sure that you first off save your project. And in the next lesson, now I'm going to explain in full detail how we are going to use the place hotlink function. Alright, so this is where things will get interesting, because what we're going to do is we're going to link this into another file. So in first place, for this lesson, the same way I did in the previous lesson, I'm going to include the typical floor plan, which is the modeled project right over here, and also in PLA format, so you don't have any issues with the libraries. And also, if you want to practice the modeling part a little bit, I'm also going to include the typical floor plan dimensions, which is this file over here. As you can notice, it's only going to give you basic measurements. If you notice, the typical floor plan is, the floor plan, but it won't have the different rooms, which we're going to replace with the Hotlinked module. It's simply just walls, the circulation or the hall over here, the stairs, and a small space over here. And also I'm going to include the typical floor plan distribution number 1 and typical floor plan distribution number 2. You can also create different structures for your typical floor plans, which are going to give you different variants, especially for this site. You can notice we got king size rooms over here, and then individual beds right over here. Okay, it's going to switch a little bit the space. So inside ArchiCAD, what I'm going to do is I'll simply open already the model project. I'm simply going to, it's really important that when you open the file, you also activate the option right over here, launch a new instance of ArchiCAD, because what we want to do is we want to have the original file of the room opened in a separate ArchiCAD file, so we can make changes, we can adapt this however we want. And in the other file where we place the Hotlinked modules, we want to distribute this original model. So let's proceed to open up the typical floor plan as a new instance. Okay, so once we open up this file, we only get something like this. If you notice, we're missing all the rooms that we're going to position in a bit. And let's proceed before we begin simply save this as a separate copy, save as, and in the same folder that I have created, I'm just going to save this as test, typical floor plan, okay, which is going to be a PLN type of file. Let's save this. And now what we can do is proceed with the Hotlinked module placement, okay? Now, before we begin, something to keep in mind is that the function place hotlink is going to be deactivated if you are in a generic perspective. Okay, so keep that in mind. If you are in a 3D view, it's not going to be enabled. The first thing you have to do is open up the ground floor plan view. Okay, and once you're in the floor plan view, let's proceed, File, External Content, and place Hotlink option. Actually, all the different options that we're going to review for this section, you can notice them and you will find them right over here. You can place a hotlink, you can break this, you can save a hotlink as a separate file, you can save the selection as a module, and also you got a manager for all the hotlinks that you're going to be placing for your project. In this case, what we want to do is go with the first step, which is going to be place hotlink. In this window, you're going to have separate options. In first place, you can select which module you want to place. In second place, you got the settings, which master layer, which ID, the orientation. You also got design options, which is a new function introduced, if I remember well, in ArchiCAD 27. Something that we're going to cover in a little bit, but for this case we're going to skip this option. We're not going to review this one for this section, okay? And also you got element settings, which I want to explain in a separate manner, because this will control how all the different heights for your project are going to work, and also how ArchiCAD is going to relate the different heights from one project to another, because maybe one project doesn't have the same stories that it has in a second project. Maybe project number 2 has 5 stories and project number 1 has only 2 stories, and maybe project number 3 will have 7 stories. So yeah, it can get messy really easy, but specifically talking, element settings will allow you and help you on how you want to adjust the heights of your elements and how you want to manage the story structure along the different files that you link. Okay, so let's for now minimize everything, don't worry too much about it, and let's proceed with the first step. Select module right over here. Okay, and once you select the module, it's going to open up this new window where you can right over here, new module, select which file you want to link. As we already commented, you can link everything from Beam Cloud, or you can link this from a separate file. Let's proceed and select the first file we got over here, room number 1, king size. Select this. Right over here, you will notice that it gives you the possibility of controlling which stories you want to import, whether it's going to be everything inside your project. For now, let's say that in both of these files we have exactly the same stories. So what's going to happen if you select the all stories option? It's going to link everything from the level number 0 to level number 0, and from the level number 1 everything is going to be linked completely as the same. Okay, or you can select, okay, I don't want level number 1, I only want the information from level number 0, okay, or from the ground floor. So you can select whether you want to import everything or something a little bit more specific. Let's proceed with all stories for now. Let's press OK. And now you can notice that it's going to give you in this list, when you start importing all types of modules, everything is going to appear over here. It's going to give you the source location. If you delete this, it's going to be missing in this file. Okay, so just be careful not to delete the source information. And also it's going to give you an idea of which stories have been linked and the source file. Now let's select this module. This is the one that we're going to import. It's going to tell you that it has been completely linked. Okay, so it's correctly linked. You can also change the module if you want to import something else. Simply click right over here and repeat the same process. Now in Hotlink settings, if you notice what's going to happen with layers. Okay, so what's going to happen is that if you create some layers for this file, okay, well, we got layers in Spanish in this case. We got the metal work, we got the slab, we got the walls, and we got objects, okay? We got 4 total layers over here. So what's going to happen is that it's going to create 4 separate layers in our project, okay, which are referenced from the source module. And also we can link the whole module, the whole file, inside a master layer. So if you turn off the master layer, the linked elements are going to completely disappear. Everything is going to disappear. But also you can control everything separately. So you have these 2 different possibilities, okay? Now, if you're planning to use, for example, the schedules function to maybe quantify how many of these modules you have placed, how many elements we got for these modules, you also maybe want to keep in mind the master ID for each module. Okay, I simply leave it usually as module number 1, module number 2, or something like that. So it's much easier to manage. Okay, but you can assign a master ID over here. Then you got the align module. You can align this to the project origin. You can align this to the survey point. So it's going to have pretty much the same location, the same source file. So let's say that if we jump from the typical floor plan to the room right over here, if you got your origin over here, the project origin, well, everything is going to match accordingly. Okay, it's going to place your model to the origin of your second file. So you can pretty much select this, whether you want to align this however you want, or if you want to assign some specific orientation, you can do so. You can rotate the model, or you can also specify this option. It's going to pretty much mirror the module or the hotlink on its axis. Okay, for this case I'm going to deactivate everything. I'm just going to keep everything deactivated. And finally, but not least, you also got element settings, which is we already commented how the heights are going to relate. As I already told you, I want to illustrate this graphically for a separate lesson. So let's not worry too much about this for a moment. So, and let's only proceed with module and hotlink settings. Okay, let's go ahead, place hotlink. Let's press OK. And right over here, you can notice you can also match the stories. You get this window where you can match which story is going to match with which story. Okay, you got your host file, which is for this case is going to be the typical floor plan, the current file we have opened right over here. Okay, and you got the hotlink, which is the room that we are importing. Okay, it's going to tell you that I'm going to match the story level number 1 with level number 1 for the hotlink. And then you can specify, okay, I'm going to match the host level ground floor with ground floor, or level 0 with level 0. Okay, you can also offset everything to your own liking. Let's say that you want to match this in a different way. If you have level 0 for your host file, you can say, okay, in level 0, you're going to match the hotlink level number 1. Okay, and if you notice, in level 0, it's going to offset this one story below. And then it's going to give you also a warning. Right over here, you can notice the marked stories will not be visible because they fall outside of the story range of the project, okay? And if you want to display this, you have to add a new story. So for your project, for your current project, you have to create a -1 level, which can be the basement or something like that, okay? So everything matches perfectly. For this case, let's leave this at exactly the same. Let's simply press OK. And pretty much there it is. It has referenced the project with some visible issues with the library, something that we can fix in a moment. But simply make sure that you set your mouse outside of the box and press enter. And in this manner, you will reference your first hotlink. Now, before we finish this lesson, let's simply address the issue with the library, something that I wasn't expecting, which is completely normal, especially if you're working with different libraries, and happens quite often in different versions of ArchiCAD. If you get, just in case, if you get something like this, there's a simple way to fix this. You simply open up the original file, the room number 1 file over here. Let's go into Files, let's go into Libraries and Objects, and Library Manager. Okay, now if you remember, the file that I shared with you was a PLA file, which you can notice the library is going to be already referenced inside the file. So what we want to do is, let's simply select the library reference in the PLA model. And if I remember well, we can use this option, which is this one, embeds the library inside the file. Okay, so let's proceed. Embed place objects of selected library. Also embed textures. Yeah, let's embed everything. Of course, this is going to measure a little bit more. Okay, but right over here, you can notice that now the PLA library has been embedded inside the project. All the libraries are embedded inside the file. Let's press OK. There it is. And now we can simply proceed to once again save the file. File, save as. We can save this in our folder that we created for this section, Hotlinked Modules. Let's proceed and save this for now as a PLN file. I'm going to save this with the same name. I'm also going to overwrite the file. Let's press yes. And now what we can do is, in the typical floor plan, if you notice over here, we got our typical floor plan. It still has the issue with the libraries. Now, I'm giving you a quick spoiler on how you will update the linked module, but it's simple. It's really easy. You simply, whenever you create a change in your original file, you simply proceed to save this. Okay, you overwrite the older version of your file, and then you simply save once again your project. Okay, so if we save the typical floor plan file, save, you will notice that we get this window completely automatically. Okay, it's going to give you a warning. Some hotlinks have been outdated. What do you want to do? We can proceed with not updating this, but in this case, we want to update and continue. Okay, so let's see if this is going to fix the issue with the libraries. I really hope that this is going to fix everything. Let's notice, and yes, there it is. This is a quick and simple way to fix with the issue with the libraries, which is a pretty common issue. But as you notice, if you embed your libraries from the PLA file, which was created in ArchiCAD, a Spanish version of ArchiCAD, if you embed this, it's a quick and easy fix, which will allow you to manage multiple types of libraries inside your ArchiCAD project. And as you noticed, updating your module is really simple. You simply save the project, file save, then you proceed file save, and there it is. So as always, take some time, make sure that you place your hotlink, make sure that you solve the issue, the possible issue that you might get with libraries, which can happen especially while working in different versions of ArchiCAD. Doesn't matter if it's ArchiCAD Spanish or English, French or English, or ArchiCAD 27 and ArchiCAD 28. This can happen. But as you notice, the fixes are possible. Make sure you fix this. And in the next lesson, we can proceed with the next concepts. Alright, so I gave you a quick spoiler on how you can update your module, but let's take this further. Let's, for example, take a moment. I'm going to press Ctrl U so we can activate the multiply function right over here. Let's activate drag, increment and spread, and press OK. Let's click left link on the first corner. Let's click then the second corner, and let's simply copy everything until it fits perfectly. Okay, so in our typical floor plan, you can notice that everything has been completely spaced out. Well, we can say almost spaced out. For some reason, we got a small issue going on over here, which we can fix. Maybe we can select everything. Okay, and let's maybe offset this a little bit. Let's offset this to the thickness of the wall. Yeah, so I made a small mistake. If you notice, the first module was placed in the origin, but what we had to do is offset this a little bit. So we got a double thickness over here, and now everything fits perfectly. Okay, so yeah, we got multiple copies over here. Let's proceed now, and let's comment 3 different ways on how you can update your project. Let's say that for some reason you want a different layout over here. Let's say that we maybe delete the king size bed. Okay, let's go to objects. Let's activate the object tool over here. In loaded libraries, which I'm going to fix real quick for this file. And in loaded libraries, let's select, let's search for a bed, just a single bed. Okay, I'm just going to select maybe one of the most basic ones, press OK. And let's say we position our bed right over here. Okay, let's create one copy here. Let's maybe move this 0.90, maybe a little bit less. Let's see if we can modify this to 1.20. Now ArchiCAD looks a little bit more like Revit. We got the same guidelines in Revit. Okay, and let's create one extra copy, maybe something like this. Okay, so we get okay, it's not perfect, it's not the best solution, but it's looking decent enough. Okay, so let's say we create any copy, any change you want for your source project, for your module. Okay, so I already explained that the first way on how you can create a change is really simple. You simply overwrite the file that has been linked in your master project. Okay, so we simply select king size file and simply save this. Okay, press yes in the ground floor, and then in the ground floor on the typical floor plan, you simply proceed to save your master project. Okay, once you save your master project, we already commented that ArchiCAD automatically is going to detect that you have something outdated. Okay, and it's going to offer you the possibility to update your modules, which is one of the simplest, or pretty much the simplest and most direct way on how you can update this module. Okay, I'm going to cancel this so I can explain you the second way. Now, the second way would be, if you notice right over here, we still got the outdated linked file over here, which has a king size bed. Okay, but we want to update this. You simply select one of the modules. It can be whichever module you want. Right click it, and right over here you can notice we got a bunch of different options for managing hotlinks. You got hotlink selection settings. You can break the hotlinks. In other words, you can embed the elements. Something I want to comment in upcoming lessons. Also, you got Hotlinked module options right over here, which we are interested in. So let's right click right over here, Hotlinked modules, and right over here you can notice you get this option, update the module and all the related hot links. Okay, you also have the possibility of opening up the project as a separate instance in ArchiCAD, so you can edit this on your own. Okay, now let's proceed. Right click it, Hotlinked module, and update the module. Okay, let's give it a few seconds. Okay, so it's going to update everything. And now you can notice that, yeah, it's going to update this, but we still got the issue with the libraries. Let's see if we can maybe fix this real quick inside this folder. The reason is because this is a PLA type of file. What we have to do is simply we go into File, Libraries and Objects, Library Manager, and you can notice that we are missing our native ArchiCAD library. So just take a moment, add a file, and in your ArchiCAD installation folder, simply select ArchiCAD Library 28 right over here. You simply open this folder as a full folder and then simply press OK. So what's going to happen is that the objects we placed earlier in our module are also going to be linked as an ArchiCAD object. Okay, so right over here you can notice that the 8 different modules we have placed have been completely updated. Now let's proceed with the third option. What I'm going to do for this case, so we can proceed with a more interesting structure, how about we create a copy of this room? So we got an individual room, and we also got a copy which is the king size. Okay, let's simply proceed, File, Save As. Okay, I'm going to save this individual, double individual, something like that. Let's name it individual set. I think it's a better name, which is going to be room number 2. Okay, this is going to be a separate room. Okay, and then let's press Ctrl Z. If we can see, we can get the king size bed back right over here. And let's proceed and save this as a king size room over here. So we got 2 different separate files, one king size and individual set. Let's press save. It's going to save the file. And now how about the rest of the rooms right over here? We set them to be king size, and the row of rooms we got over here are going to be simply individual rooms. Okay, so let's proceed and let's link the second file, the second module. We are going to use the same process, File, External Content, Place Hotlink. Okay, let's switch the model, because what's going to happen is that it's actually going to place the correct module, so never mind about that. But if for some reason it selects another type of file, you can also select another file over here. We got a small issue over here, because if you remember, we actually overridden this one. This one is going to be king size. So before we proceed with the second file extension, how about we actually update the first one? So I'm going to take this opportunity to explain the third way on how you can update your file. We already said you simply save and save. That's the first one. Is the second one we said right click it, and it's going to be Hotlinked module, update module. Okay, but you also got a third way, which is going to be through the Hotlinked module manager, which is this option over here. If you got the place Hotlinked module over here, simply navigate a little bit below and you get the module manager. Let's activate this one real quick. And as the name implies, this is where you can, in first place, you can visualize the status of the different modules. As you can notice over here, we have modified the king size file, okay? And it's going to tell you that this file has been modified, okay? It's also going to give you the Hotlinked modules right over here, which models you have linked in your master project. In the typical floor plan, you got 2 different modules, okay? This window over here is something I want to comment in a separate manner, the different options we got over here. So let's simply put this in a pause for now. But the third way to update your model would be to simply visualize which model is outdated. You select it and you hit the update option right over here. Simply hit this. It's going to update this. Okay, let's press OK. And ArchiCAD is going to proceed and update all the modules. So right over here, you can notice that all the individual beds have changed to a king size bed. Okay, so let's proceed now and actually link the missing rooms we got over here as a second module. If this is our first module, what we want to do now is link the second module. Let's proceed with File, External Content, place Hotlink once again. For this case, we want to select a different type of module. So let's go ahead and set the press change model over here. Okay, let's hit new module from File, and now let's proceed and select room number 2, individual set. Let's select this file. Okay, all stories, press OK, and now you can select which type of module you want to link. For this case, it's going to be room number 2. Let's press select, and there it is. We simply proceed now to specify the layer. You can leave the layer as default, modules, or modules in Spanish, but it's the modules layer. The master ID, make sure you change this. If this is going to be model number 1, make sure you switch this to model number 2 or something else. Let's place the hot link. Let's see how it's going to behave. Most likely, once you press OK, what's going to happen is that it's going to position this at the origin. So we got an issue over here because we don't want to these two models to be overlinked one on top of each other. So make sure you press left click inside the marquee you got over here and make sure you move this around a little bit over here. Okay, it doesn't have to be perfect for now. We can make sure that we position this correctly in a second. Make sure you position your mouse outside of the marquee and press enter. Okay, so it's going to link your next module. Now you can simply take the module, rotate this all together, no worries over here. And yeah, you simply activate the move command and make sure you position this in the corner right over here. Okay, so now we can say that, yeah, it's pretty much done, but I still feel that we can select this and maybe activate the mirror command. So don't worry, it's still going to behave properly once we create changes. Even if you mirror the modules, everything is going to work properly. Okay, let's finally select the module, Ctrl U, let's press OK, and let's create the final copies over here. So yeah, now we got our typical floor plan. Let's see how it behaves in 3D, and there it is. We got the different rooms linked in our typical floor plan. Yeah, we got an issue over here because I didn't notice at which height I positioned the beds. So let's fix this real quick, and plus let's test this out real quick. Let's open up the room number 2 file. And don't forget that you have to open this as a new instance of ArchiCAD if you want to work on 2 different projects simultaneously. Also keep in mind that this is an amazing way to start working on your project collaboratively speaking, because what you can do is you yourself or somebody else, one person can manage the typical floor plan or can manage the master file, and another colleague or the BIM modeler can work separately on a file. So each time the BIM modeler generates a change, you simply ask for the file from the BIM modeler, you copy the file to your computer, you replace it, and ArchiCAD is going to work the magic for you. Okay, so this is just an amazing way on how you can work your projects collaboratively. Okay, let's proceed and simply fix this real quick. Let's select this, okay, and let's make sure that these ones are actually on the level 0, not 1.8, exactly on level 0. There it is, okay. So let's simply proceed, File, Save, so we overwrite the old version of the file. Now let's go into typical floor plan. Let's see if we can save this in a 3D view. If I remember well, it's possible. It's going to update everything. Let's simply test it out. File, save. Okay. Yeah, it's not going to work in a 3D view. So let's test it out also once again in ground floor. File, save. Yes, if you notice, it's clear as it is. It's not going to work in 3D view. It's not going to give you the outdated window, but if you save the file in a ground floor, it's going to update everything. If you want to proceed in 3D, what you can also try is right click it, Hotlinked module, and update the module. So this is a possible way in 3D, but if you simply want to save everything, you have to do this in the ground floor. Okay, and there it is. If you notice, the 5 different modules have been completely updated. So hopefully with this I can make it clear the general workflow with hotlinks. As you notice, it's quite simple. It has some nice tricks that we have to keep in mind. And the best thing is that you can work on your project separately and link everything in a master project and also manage the master project separately. As always, take some time, make sure you practice these concepts as best as possible, and in the next lesson we can proceed with the next topic. Alright, so far we have explained the general workflow with hotlinks. Now let's proceed to comment an amazing window we got inside ArchiCAD, which is of course going to be the Hotlinked Module Manager. Now you got the Hotlinked modules right over here, you got the sources. The sources will simply tell you if everything is correctly linked, and the Hotlinked modules is going to give you the general idea on how your master project, you got the master project right over here, and you got the hotlinks right over here. Okay, how everything is structured, which is an amazing preview. Okay, what you can do now is, for example, you can select whichever of these modules you want to work on. Let's, for example, select the king size. You can change the model. Let's say that for some reason you made a mistake, and in this file, instead of this row having a king size bed, it's going to be double plus individual type of bed. Okay, for 3 different persons, for a couple and maybe a son. Okay, and you want to replace this real simple without the need of deleting everything separately and then repeating the process. What you can do is simply, for example, let's actually test this out. It's going to be much better this way. How about we delete the single room we got over here, and we simply proceed to place a double bed, a single bed over here, and another bed which is going to be double over here. Let's press, yeah, this one is going to be too much. If I remember well, double bed is something like 2 meters by 1.35. There it is, that's a double bed. Let's press OK. Set the double bed here. Okay, let's give it some space right over here, and let's delete this cabinet and set the single bed here. Something like this. Okay, it's going to be a simple quick fix. There it is. So we have created a completely new type of room and completely new type of file. Let's proceed to save one more copy of this file. I'm going to simply save this as room number 3. Okay, it's going to be named double plus single, something like this. Okay, and yeah, let's save this. And now let's say that we got the case. Okay, I made a mistake. This is not going to be king size. This is going to be room number 3. So how can I switch this real quick? What you can do is simply select room number 1 over here, change module, new module from file, and let's select room number 3 right over here. Select it, all the stories. Actually, in this case, you definitely need to select the story. Let's maybe select only level 0. Okay, let's proceed with ground floor, level 0 for this case. Press OK. Let's proceed with select. And there it is. You can see that room number 3 now has been selected. For some reason, it's going to tell me that it's modified. Let's see if we can select this and simply hit update. Okay, so everything is looking good. Let's press OK. And let's see if ArchiCAD will work its magic over here. So in theory, this is not going to be king size, but now it has to be a single plus a double type of bed. Okay, there it is, almost, because we still didn't measure the height. But as you can notice, we have replaced one room with another. Let's fix the small issue real quick. It's the same issue we didn't notice earlier. In this case, I'm going to set this to be 0. There it is. Let's proceed to save this once again. And yeah, there it is. That's how you can change a model with the Hotlinked Module Manager, which is an amazing function. Okay, let's proceed now with more options. Right over here, you can notice that Hotlinked Sources, this one is modified. Whenever it says modified, you can simply press the update button. Okay, it's going to update this. You simply press OK. And something that we'll recommend it, it's simply going to update everything automatically. So that's another function to keep in mind. Now you also got another way to access the module manager much faster. Instead of pressing File, External Content and Hotlinked Module Manager, what you can do is simply select one hotlink, right click it, and right over here, Hotlinked Module. You also can activate the Hotlinked Module Manager with right click. Okay, so this is how you can access this window. We already commented the change model function. What you can do is also, you can save this as a separate file. The only thing to keep in mind is that it's only going to give you the possibility to save this as a point mod type of extension, which won't include the information contained in stories or view sets or extra information. So only going to save this as a geometry, okay? But it also gives you the ability to select one module and save this as a separate element. Now you also have the possibility to break the link. As ArchiCAD will tell you, let's see if we can maybe zoom in over here. Let's see if we get this window. It's going to break all the hot links of this module and embed the elements into the host project. As ArchiCAD will tell you, everything will become completely editable, okay? Because this is something we haven't commented. If you notice, in this master project, it's not going to give us the possibility to edit this freely. We can select this, we can delete this. It's not going to give it. Everything is completely locked, okay? It is the only change that we can do is going to be from the original file containing the room, okay? But if you go into the Hotlinked Module Manager and you say, okay, this is going to be now the final version of the project, room number 2, just in case. Let's select this one and let's break the links, okay? So it's going to give you another icon. The link now is broken. Let's press OK. And what's going to happen is that the modules, if you notice, this is still a Hotlinked module, but now this element right over here is a native ArchiCAD element, okay? This is a wall, this is a object, everything now is completely editable. So you can select, for example, this element and you can edit this in your master project, okay? It has been embedded into your project, okay? But if you create a change in the file, the one that we embedded, which was, if I remember well, room number 2, if you create a change over here, now it's not going to update this inside your project, because if you notice, the hotlink has been broken. We go back to Hotlinked Module Manager, you can notice that now we don't have a room number 2, it's completely lost. So keep this in mind, you want to use this option whenever you feel sure that now you're working your final version, you don't need to create a change anymore, or for some reason you want to edit everything natively. Okay, so keep this in mind. It's one powerful option, but it has pros and cons. Okay, and finally but not least, you can select your module, you can simply delete this, press OK, and pretty much everything we got over here is going to disappear. Okay, so you can also delete modules if you want to do something else. As you notice, we can easily change modules See if I can press Ctrl Z once again. And there it is. With Ctrl Z, you can notice that it's going to undo the embedding process, okay? So yeah, you can change models really easy, swap them for something else. You can save these external elements, break links, delete them. If for some reason one day you open a file that the status is going to tell you something like it's missing or something is going on, and maybe someone sends you a file which is with another name or something else, well, it's possible that ArchiCAD will tell, hey, these modules are missing. What you can do is also, for some reason, let's test it out. Let's test it out real quick so you can notice, graphically speaking, what I'm talking about. Let's, for example, test it out with room number 3. What I'm going to do is I'm simply going to close the file containing room number 3. And now what I'm going to do, for one instance, I'm going to refresh everything over here. And on the other instance, this is a backup. Let's select room number 3. And how about we rename this to something else? Let's name this, maybe instead of abbreviated, let's literally name this room 3. Okay, so you can notice this has been renamed. We got a different name for this file. Okay, let's go back to the master project right over here. And let's see what's happening in the Hotlinked Module Manager. So there it is, what I was telling you. Now it's going to tell you, hey, this file is missing. We simply rename this, it's missing. It's possible that it's not in your computer anymore because you deleted it. So what is going to be the fix right over here? You simply select this file over here and you simply hit relink from file. And then you proceed to select the new file. Okay, in this case, if you notice, we have renamed this one. Simply select it. Okay, we got the status, which is going to be called relink. Let's press OK. Let's see how it's going to behave. And there it is, as nothing has happened. Okay, so that is a definite fix you want to apply in case that you rename your file, in case that maybe somebody shares with you a master project but doesn't share the linked hot links. Don't worry, everything has a fix. You simply open the Hotlinked Module Manager, you can change your modules, you can relink them, you can update them, you can even open them directly as a separate instance. If we once again proceed to open room number 3, open a new instance, we don't need to search for the file anymore. If we want to create a change, simply hit this button. It's much faster than manually searching for the file and manually trying to open up ArchiCAD from zero. So hopefully with this, it is completely clear to you how the Hotlinked Module Manager works. And before we put an end to this section, there's one more extra amazing option that ArchiCAD has, which also is introduced in the final latest versions of ArchiCAD. We also got the possibility to compare the models after OK. So for example, let's jump into room number 3 and let's say I create a change over here. Let's say that maybe I'm going to delete this object over here. I'm just going to keep it simple, something like this. Maybe move this over here. And let's say that I want to move this a little bit over here, something like this, okay? And let's say that I want to create maybe one more object. In cabinets, I want to position something like a TV stand right over here. Let's press OK. Let's position the TV stand. Let's rotate this. Let's center this on the TV. And let's select the TV and send this to the front. Okay, so we have created significant changes to this file. So what we can do now is let's proceed to save this the same option over here. Let's go back to the master project. Let's close the module manager. Let's open the module manager once again. Now it's going to tell us that, okay, this one has been modified. Let's select this. Let's activate compare models after OK. Okay, so it's going to tell us this option is going to open the model compare window, comparing the current model to the previous version. Let's see what's going to happen. Let's press OK. It's going to open the model compare function, which is going to give us a possibility, as the name implies, to visualize the older version of the model and then visualize the new version of the model. Okay, you can also compare the old model. For example, you can take the current model for this over here. Then you can, for example, browse for a file. You can select room number 3. Let's open this up. Let's hit compare. And there it is. What's going to happen is that it's going to mount the two different versions of the files, so you can easily visualize the changes. Okay. Now this is an amazing function that we're going to comment in upcoming lessons, but you can also mess around with this option for Hotlinked modules. You simply take your current model, which is going to be the old versions. You take then, for example, one of the files you want to compare, hit the compare button, and pretty much that's it. What you can do now is also control the visibility of the file number 1 or the file number 2, and then you can control the visibility for the file number 1. Okay, for some reason it's not going to change too much, but there it is. Okay, so yeah, this is one amazing function that will also allow you to visualize changes done for your project. Okay, let's simply close this, continue, and with this now we can put an end to this lesson. So hopefully with this it is clear to you the amazing functions that the Hotlinked Module Manager offers you. As always, please take some time, make sure that you check out and test out all these functions for yourself. And for the next lesson, now we can continue commenting a little bit about the height management for hotlinks. Right, before we continue with our project, the hotel we're working on, I just want to take a moment to explain a little bit about how you can start relating your stories from different projects. And for this case, I have 3 quick examples, one of which where we got this small project, this small volumetry, really simple over here. For the second example, I got another volumetry here. And for the third file, which is a master project, it simply has basic stories. Now, I want to make sure that you pay attention to the stories we got in the different projects. In the first project, project number 1, we got 3 stories. We got the ground floor, which is at a level 0. We got the first floor, 3, level plus 3, and roof floor, which is going to be level plus 6. Okay, so the separation from the reference plane is 3 meters. Okay, it's the same for everything. But for the second project, we have an issue because in the second project, you can clearly see the separation is going to be different. Ground floor is 0, it's exactly the same, but first floor is going to be plus 4.5. It is going to have more separation, 4.5. The same will happen over here, 9 meters, which has a separation of 9, has a height of 4.5. So clearly the height for this project and this project is different. Now, what's going to happen when you mix both of these projects in a file that has, well, let's say that this file has the same heights, a little bit similar to the first project, but what's going to happen with the second project? That's where issues can happen, okay? So let's test it out. I'm going to show you. Let's go over here, File, Place Hotlink. I'm going to, well, I've managed to test it out real quick before, but for this case, I'm going to insert the first example. For this case, I got plus 3 meters and plus 4.5 meters, which are clearly these projects. So I got project number 1 and project number 2. Let's proceed first with the first one, project 1, which has a separation of 3 meters. Okay. If you notice, I also got project number 2 already loaded. You can load multiple projects in just one go in the select Hotlinked module function. Let's select the first one. Okay. And this is going to have a master ID project 1. And things will get interesting right over here, okay? So you got two different ways on how you can adjust your elevation, whether you want to keep everything intact or if you want to adjust everything accordingly, okay? For now, I'm going to keep everything intact for the first project. I'm just going to set it as a reference point, okay? Let's place a hot link, press OK, reference the ground floor, there we go, and press enter, okay? If we go to the 3D view, you can notice that now everything is looking exactly the same as the first project, okay? The first project. Let's go to the 3D over here. So everything looks pretty much the same, okay? Now things will get interesting with the second project. So let's test it out. Once again, I'm going to go over here, place hot link, but I'm going to change the model to the project that has a separation of 4.5 meters. Okay, I'm going to import everything, select this one. Now things will get interesting for this one, because if you remember, the stories for this master reference project are separated in 3 meters. Okay, this is 3 meters, has a separation of 3 meters, 3 meters, and 3 meters. But the project that I importing has a separation of 4.5 meters. So if I use the same option, keep elevation as in story structure of hotlink source, let's test it out. Let's place a hot link. Let's see what's going to happen, which, spoiler alert, it's going to give us the best result from all the possible ways we can import this. Now, you can notice that the project actually it has imported everything exactly the same. Okay, let's see how the wall will behave. So you can clearly notice that the top link it's going to delete the top link and it's going to manage everything independently. Okay, but the good news is that it has successfully imported the project as intended. Even if you can notice the first project will stay pretty much the same. Let's see if we can select this wall. It's still going to link everything with a not linked status. Okay, so just keep that small detail in mind. Okay, but the second project is also going to behave exactly the same as in the reference project over here, the second project. Okay, as you can see, the first option is actually going to be the best one in case you got different stories in your hotlink and different stories on your host project. Okay, now let's take a moment to test out the other two options. I'm going to use exactly the same example, which is the one that has 4.5 meters in separation. Let's place once again the project number 2. But for this case, I'm going to activate the adjust elevation to story structure, okay, of the host project. So we got two extra options. When you activate this option over here, you can choose how you want to link your top linked elements. Whether you want to keep the height as in the story structure or whether you want to adjust the height to the story structure. Let's activate the first option. Adjust height to story structure, place hot link, press OK. Let's place it close by here. And what's going to happen is something interesting. Now, you can notice that the project has been reduced. Okay, if we had the original project 4.5 meters, well, the top link of the walls, the top link of the slabs will be adjusted to a separation of 3 meters. If this one, the first option, is going to delete the top link, but it's going to maintain the height intact, what's going to happen for the next one is that it's going to link everything, but this value, instead of saying something like 4.30, now it's going to change and it will say 2.80. But the top link still stays, will be referenced to your story. Okay, so keep in mind that yes, the second option will allow you to insert your project with a top link, but it's going to adjust the height for the whole project, which depends the case on you, how you want to choose this option, how you want to use this option. Okay, now let's go with the final option, which personally I don't think is a great option, because now you will see what's going to happen. Let's once again activate the same project number 2, separation of 4.5 meters. But the top link elements, we will keep the height as in the story structure. Okay, the height is going to stay the same. Okay, let's proceed to place a hot link. Press OK. Let's adjust this, something like that. Okay, let's proceed. And there it is. So yeah, we got something interesting going on over here, because what's going to happen is that the walls, you can notice that this wall is not going to end here. It's going to actually end as in the original project. It's going to be referenced at a height of 4.30 meters. Okay. Some of the elements, for example, this wall is also going to be offset. The bottom link will stay the same, but the height is going to be misadjusted. And then the slab is going to be adjusted to the home story. So yeah, it's going to mess up a little bit the project, but yeah, it depends on how you want to adjust your project, because you can clearly see the bottom reference plane is going to be adjusted, but the top reference plane is going to stay intact. Okay, so that's what's going on with the third element settings method. Okay, now I want to comment just extra options. For example, what's going to happen if, let's say that once again, let's place a hot link, going to be the same. You can also, for example, offset everything. I'm going to keep the elevation original. For me, this is the best option if we have the issue where the stories have different heights. Okay, so make sure you use the first one, or if for some reason you want to adjust your project, you can proceed with the second one, which is going to be adjust height. And then the third option, as you notice, is not personally my favorite, because it's going to mess up a little bit the project, but who knows, maybe you'll find some use for this option. Okay, let's test it out with the final option. You can also offset the project in general. Let's say we want to offset this by 3 meters, or let's say 1.50 meters, something like this. Place hot link, press OK. You can also, for example, place this with some type of offset. Of course, in the ground floor plan is going to look different. There it is. But you can clearly see that it's going to give you exactly the same result, but it's also going to take the whole project and simply elevate this 1.50 meters. Okay, so in terms of height, this still remains exactly the same. ArchiCAD will adjust everything for you, and it's going to have an offset of 1.5 meters. Okay. Finally, but not least, you can also mess around, for example, with your options. Let's test it out once again, this option, but I'm going to set this to 0. I'm going to keep the elevation intact, place hot link, but in this case, how about instead of the ground floor of the host, we link the hot link as the first floor. So what's going to happen is that we got the ground floor, the first floor. It's going to offset everything only one story below. Let's press OK. Let's move this around over here. Press enter. And now you can see that what's going to happen is that it's going to delete the bottom part of the project, because we don't have a story that is below the ground floor, and it's only going to maintain the upper half. Now we, for example, take a moment to create an extra story. Let's say that below the ground floor we can insert one below, which is going to be the basement, something like that, which is -3 meters. Okay, let's test one more option out. Yeah, you can actually notice that something interesting has happened. It was hidden. We could say that it's not deleted, but it actually was hidden. Okay, and the moment you actually create the story, it's going to display now the bottom half. So that's actually one option that I wasn't well aware of, but okay, problem solved, we could call it like that. So hopefully with this, I can illustrate a little bit how you can mess around with the different options for your element settings. As you notice, there's different ways on how you can import a project that has different stories to a master project. Okay, you can have your master project with different stories, but also ArchiCAD handles pretty well, I'm going to be honest with you, pretty well projects with different stories, okay? So hopefully with this I can make it clear which is the best option for you. And now in the next lesson I'm going to tell you another nice way on how you can manage two projects with two different types of stories in a master project. Right, so having explained the element settings, how you can manage heights and stories, I'm pretty much back to where we left off for the project, for the hotel we're working on, which is looking something like this. We got the typical floor plan. So let's continue with the workflow, and I also can explain some interesting stuff once we complete the project, okay? And before we start, make sure that you got your typical floor plan distribution 1, distribution 2 files close by, which has something like this. Distribution 1, which has king size on this part, on the upper part, and on the bottom part we got individual beds, and then we got double plus individuals, okay? So I'm just going to take a moment and simply position the correct rooms, okay? If you remember, we already have, for now, we already have the three different rooms. We got king size, individual set, and plus double plus single set. So what I'm going to do is I'm simply going to take a moment and place them according to the distribution I have for my first typical floor plan. Right, so the first floor plan, the typical floor plan, is looking close by to what we want to achieve. We got different distributions. In general, we got module number 1 over here, we got module number 2 over here, and we got module number 3, which is going to be the other half. Okay, so this is how the distribution is going to work. Okay. Now we got the first typical floor plan. We already have this project saved, so simply make sure that you save it. Okay, save. And now let's create a copy of this project, which is going to be called floor plan number 2. Okay, typical floor plan 2, something like that. Let's also create a copy, save this. And now we have to be careful with the other floor plan, which is going to have for the second one, the same modules we are using over here are also going to be repeated for this other half. So it's going to be module number 1 here, module number 1 here, and this one is going to be module number 2. So in the first one we have 3 different modules, and for the second one we only have 2. Okay, so I'm also going to take a moment and I'll make the small fix for the second floor plan. Okay, so we got now, so far we got multiple files. Okay, we got backups over here. We got the 2 typical floor plans, and we got the 3 different modules for the room. Keep in mind that what we're trying to achieve is something like this. Okay, well, we don't have a room 4. We only have 3 different rooms, which are going to be linked in 2 different typical floor plans. Now what we're going to do is, this is a hot link, this is going to become a hot link, because we're going to mix everything for a general master project. What we want to do now is link the typical floor plan number 1 and number 2 in the master project. So for this case, what I'm going to do is I'm also sharing in this present lesson the master project file in PLA format right over here. Okay, so let's take a moment and let's open up this project. Alright, so master project is going to look something like this. We only have modeled the ground floor. and the roof floor. And the intermediate levels are going to be the typical floor plans. Now you can always change the height, maybe display the roof floor, maybe 5 stories above, however you want. But remember that this is just for practical purposes, so you can notice the workflow for the project. Okay, so in this case, let's go to level number 1, this one over here, and we're going to do exactly the same process. File, external content, place hotlink, select the module. But for this case, what we want to do is we want to insert project. But for this case, what we want to do is we want to insert the whole typical floor plan. So let's select this one, press OK, select. This is going to be floor number 1. Okay, and we want to keep the elevation intact in the element settings. You already know why. So let's proceed. Place hotlink. Let's see how it's going to turn out. Let's give it a few seconds. Press OK. Okay, let's see if we can... If I remember well, I'm not sure about this one, but if I remember well, for this case, we should displace this a little bit. Okay, what we want to do is the host, we want to relate level 1 with level 0. Because if we set this as it is for now, let's press OK so you see what's going to happen. It's going to position the whole floor plan, but on the ground floor, and we don't really want that. Okay, so we can fix this real easy if we, for example, go to level 2 and place the hotlink from level 2, because if you remember, we can offset this a little bit. Okay, so let's try it again. Place hotlink. Okay, let's give it a few seconds from level 2, press OK. And in the story selection, as you can notice now, the host level 1 is going to be related to level 0 for the hotlink. Okay, so what we simply do is we simply, instead of positioning the hotlink in level 1, we can simply proceed and position this in level 2, so this offsets only one level. If for some reason it doesn't relate correctly, you can always offset this however you want, or we can simply offset this one level. Okay, this is a much easier fix. Okay, for this case, I'm going to keep it as it is. Press OK, give it a few seconds. Once we get the marquee, simply press Enter. And now when we open up the 3D view, you can notice that now everything displays correctly. Okay, so it's looking quite amazing so far. Yep, it's looking amazing. Let's proceed with the next one. I'm going to activate level 2. File, external content, place hotlink. Let's select the second typical floor plan. This one over here. Press OK, select. Adjust, keep elevation. And this is going to be floor number 2. Okay, place hotlink. There it is. Give it a few seconds so we get the story selection, and then we can simply offset this one story above. So host is going to be level 2 and the link is going to be level 0. So it's going to relate level 2 with level 0, which we are interested in. So yeah, we get the correct level. We don't really need to open up the roof floor for this case. Simply press OK, give it a few seconds and press Enter. And yes, it's looking a little bit weird. In this case, I believe that I made a mistake over here. So yeah, we got, well, in my personal case, I got a small mistake. No worries. It is easy to fix. You already know why. So yeah, for now, only focus on merging the whole project. So you got the whole project going on over here. And now what we can do is you can even select, for example, the hotlink over here, right click it. And now what we can do is Hotlinked module. You can even, for example, try out just directly, you don't need to find the project. You simply select the hotlink you want to edit, Hotlinked module, and edit module in separate ArchiCAD, which is an amazing option we got in ArchiCAD because it is going to do everything for us. It's going to open up the hotlink that is linked in this master project. Just give it a few seconds so it opens up the typical floor plan. and we can proceed to fix that small issue. So yeah, as you can notice, it has directly opened up the Hotlink. We got a separate ArchiCAD for the typical floor plan, and we got another one for the master project. Before we continue, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a moment and I'm going to save the master project just in case. Let's proceed. Yeah, I haven't saved this yet, so I'm just going to proceed, name it the same, test, and this is going to be master project. Okay, there we go. Now let's proceed with the fix in my case. So yeah, the fix is quite simple. You simply select the element you want to fix. And let's, for example, activate the mirror command over here. Simply adjust this back to the position. And yeah, there it is. Okay, let's visualize this in 3D. Yeah, it's looking amazing so far. And now we simply proceed to save this file, save the project. In the master project, if you want to update this automatically, you simply save this bot on the ground floor. So I'm going to open up the ground floor, file, save, and then it's going to give us the window saying that some hotlinks are outdated. Let's update them, continue, give it a few seconds, press OK. And now you can see that it has been completely fixed. The same way we positioned and with the same way we linked the individual rooms for the whole typical floor plan. Well, you can manage your project as a whole. You have your master project, and any change you create on a typical floor plan is going to be also completely reflected on your master project. Okay, so yeah, pretty much this is the general workflow. Let's test out something amazing. Let's create a change which is going to go deeper until the very room we have in this typical floor plan. So what I'm going to do is I'm simply going to open up maybe, let's say we open up this one in a separate ArchiCAD, right click it, Hotlinked module, and let's use the edit module in a separate ArchiCAD. Okay, so for this case, I got 3 separate instances open, one of which is going to control the room, another one which controls the typical floor plan, and master project. So the interesting thing here is that you can still create changes for your individual rooms. So let's say, for example, we delete maybe this railing over here, and we maybe take this lattice and create extra copies. I'm going to create maybe a few copies over here. Okay, something like this. Looking good. Let's see, well, I got some duplicate elements clearly over here, but the lattice is going to be full over here. It's going to look something like this. Okay, so let's proceed to save the room and let's test it out how it's going to behave in the master project. I'm simply going to test this out. Okay, I'm going to skip the typical floor plan and straight to the master project. Okay, let's go into the level number 1 over here and let's save the project. So it's going to tell you that some links are expired. Let's see if we can update this directly without saving the typical floor plan. And yes, as you can notice, you can actually skip the saving process. You won't necessarily have to save the typical floor plan, because if you create a change on your individual rooms, it's automatically going to synchronize for your master project. You can clearly notice right over here. Okay, yeah, in this facade it's not going to synchronize because we have a different setup over here, but in this case, for this part over here, it has fully synchronized. Okay, if you want to update, for example, only your typical floor plan, you simply proceed to save, update the hotlink, and problem solved. But the interesting thing here is that you can always skip the intermediate hotlink that is hosting the individual room, and you can synchronize this directly on your whole master project. Whichever change you want to specify on your typical floor plan, you can go ahead and make changes. Okay, so the question is, why didn't you link this from the very beginning? Well, the advantage here is that we can For example, yes, these ones are still the same hot links, okay? But don't forget that in the typical floor plan, we always have some elements which are going to be separate. But don't forget that on the typical floor plan, you always have some elements that are going to be separated. So let's see if we can maybe turn off the modules layer over here. Yes. So the typical floor plan, the only thing we want to actually adjust is going to be pretty much the closing wall perimeter over here, the railing on the center, maybe for example the stairs, everything that is going to be completely modular. So doesn't matter how many floors you want to create. The amazing thing here is that if you want to change the facade, you know where to open this file. If you want to change some type of layout for a room, you know which file to open. If you only want to work on your master project, you can focus separately only on the things that will integrate everything. So hopefully with this, we can make it clear how you can start using hot links with this interesting example. As always, take as much time as you want, practice this as much as you want, and now we can comment a final interesting detail in order to put an end to this section. So now, before we put an end to this section, I just want to comment a few extra options we got in the hot links, especially why we want to break everything. So for one instance, we commented that whichever change you want to make to your project, yeah, you have to use hot links, okay? But let's say you want to create a schedule which is going to quantify maybe the square meters for the wall, for the slab, for whichever element of your master project, okay? So let's test it out real quick. I'm going to right click in schedules, new schedule, which is going to be maybe Dur schedule number 1. Let's name this Dur table, something like that. Dur schedule. Okay, press OK. Element is going to be Dur over here, and the fields are going to be, in first place, ID element ID over here. Let's proceed with maybe 3D. Okay, well, 3D front view. No, actually, this one's not. Let's go into window undo, and we got the view from open inside, view from revealed sides. These ones are a little bit better. Okay, let's view from open inside. Let's get the amount, quantity. Yes, in English it's going to be quantity. And let's get the nominal sizes, orientation, and finally but not least, 2D plan preview. Yeah, this one is going to be useful. So let's organize this a little bit. I'm going to set element ID first, quantity next. How about we also add maybe floor story. In general parameters, let's take the home story name, this one over here. So yeah, it's going to be element ID, quantity, home story name. We proceed with orientation. Okay, element ID, home story name, quantity, orientation, sizes, view 2D plan, and finally but not least, the view from open inside. Let's press OK. Let's see how the schedule is going to work. Take some time, pause the video, set the correct parameters for the schedule. Now, before we proceed, don't forget that the easiest way to scale everything in your schedules, simply hit the icon over here, resize, press OK, and also make sure that you merge everything so we don't get everything as a separate element. So let's see what's going to happen in this case. We actually get a nice looking schedule going on over here where all the doors, all the elements are being quantified. But let's say that now you want to create a change for your schedules, you want to move around these freely. Now, there was a glitch in older versions of ArchiCAD, which I comment because I don't know if you're using a new version, older version, it may happen with some students. In some cases, in older versions of ArchiCAD, it didn't quantify the hotlink elements. So that was the reason why we want to break the elements. In newer versions of ArchiCAD, I have noticed that they have fixed this. Maybe not, maybe yes. I have noticed that it was fixed. It's going to pretty much quantify everything, including the hotlink elements. But still, keep in mind that now it's not going to allow us to create a change for the IDs, okay? If for some reason you want to name this dur number 1, dur 2, 3, 4, 5, and so on, well, in this case, what we want to do is we are going to select, once you have the final version of your project, keep that in mind, only if you have the final version, right click it, and now we proceed to break the hot link, okay? We're going to embed all the different elements in our master project, okay? We are going to do the same for the next floor plan, break hot link, and now everything is exploded. If you notice, now you can select whichever element individually. Let's go back to the schedule. Let's see if something changes. Nope, nothing is going to change. But now the good thing is that now you can take, and for example, you can rename freely this to dur number 1. It's going to change. Now we can take, rename this to maybe something else like dur number 2. Okay. We can rename this to dur number 3 and so on. Okay. So the only reason you want to break the hot link is to have full freedom once you get into quantifying, into documentation processes and all that stuff. Okay, this is the only reason you want to break the hot link. Okay, I'm just going to press Ctrl Z to undo the changes. And finally, but not least, you also have miscellaneous options besides the break hot link, which we already explained. You got hot link selection settings, which is going to allow you to once again change the hot link you got over here. You can change this to something else. Okay, you got right click it, break hot link, save hot link as file. This one is amazing, but don't forget that it's going to save everything as a point mod. Okay, right click it, Hotlinked module, you can update this, edit model in separate ArchiCAD, we already use this option, and of course the Hotlinked module manager. So with this, I'm quite confident that we reviewed everything about hot links from head to toes. Hopefully with this, I can make it clear now the amazing power of hot links. As you notice, it's amazing if you are planning to work modular types of projects, or if you want to work a project collaboratively without using teamwork in, let's say, in an offline mode where somebody works on a separate ArchiCAD file in his own local computer. You work on your own separate ArchiCAD file, which is going to be maybe the master project or something else. And then you mix everything using hot links. So yeah, you got two different ways on how you can use this amazing function. As always, make sure you experiment a little bit with hot links. You practice this as best as possible. And with this, we can now put an end to this section. As you have probably noticed, linked modules are a relatively simple feature to use, but when paired with a systematic workflow, they open up a world of possibilities. You can use them to create modular and repeatable designs, streamline collaborative work either locally or offline, and even combine multiple projects to develop a master plan, which is truly impressive. These are just a few examples, but with a bit of creativity and practice, I'm sure you'll discover even more applications. For the next module, we'll explore concepts related to the renovation feature in ArchiCAD. This powerful tool allows you to organize your project in phases and opens up opportunities for creating renewal proposals and new design strategies within your BIM workflow. If you have any questions, comments, or suggestions, feel free to reach out to me through the communication channels available on Udemy. And if you have completed this session in one go, I recommend taking a short break before moving on to the next section. And without further ado, I'll see you in the next segment.